one of the most important things as we navigate, brainwaves and creating like normalcy in this interesting life that we live in that's just constantly overstimulating. I mean, I don't know. If women today don't feel overstimulated, I almost am a little bit concerned because we live in a very overstimulated environment.
Welcome, Dr. Melissa Saunders. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Very excited to have this little sit-down chat with you.
Absolutely. So, Melissa, I have been following your work closely for at least a year now, and I thoroughly enjoy the way you teach on social media. And then I got two beautiful opportunities. I came to Miami for an event, and I got to see you in San Diego at Jim Quick's event presenting your work. And each time I thoroughly enjoyed what you had to teach. You had these beautiful handouts for us, and you really explained all these brain states. And so I remember the first time I attended your workshop, I went home and was like, you also, Shivani, teach about morning rituals that are beneficial. Could you make a little space for yourself? And so I started doing morning journaling, and I really shifted my energy in the mornings. I actually think of you every morning now because I'm like, we have a choice. Are we iPhone first, or are we doing anything but iPhone first? It's a choice every single morning. And so before we dive into all of your wisdom on this topic, will you share your story, your journey, and what led you to teaching this incredible work around how we should manage our brain states throughout the day to support ourselves better?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch on what you just said about, the simple choice in the morning of iPhone first or not. And I want to make sure, as people are just diving into this, as a busy woman doing our best to do it all, which I imagine everyone listening to this really probably is, I think we hear so many of these mantras, right? And these like well-meaning things like morning routines. And so I just want to create a bit of a pattern interrupt that, yes, I'm going to be talking about not going on your screens first thing, but I'm not going to be talking about some unrealistic 1 hour morning routine. Like this is going to be a conversation that's very realistic for the busy woman. That's going to actually hone in on what it is that we need in order to shift our state in real time. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And I kind of want to tease some of the stuff that's coming because I, as a woman who has 3 children, at the time when they were 6, 4, and 1, I basically hit massive burnout. I'm a chiropractor. I was full-time in the clinic, seeing full day of patients every day, running the wellness center with my husband, managing the staff, playing the role of HR and all the things. And I ended up with neurological Lyme, which left me with meningitis and encephalitis. And so, yes, the trigger and the catalyst was a bite by a tick, coupled with, at the same time, I got mold toxicity. But, looking back, I had really been living in such a way that I was just set up for, whatever it was to just be that final straw that knocked me out. And so once I got better, I started to look at, one, what got me set up for this happening? And two, like, how could I actually take care of myself inside the life that I was living? Because if we went back to right before I got sick, anyone would think that I was a healthy woman doing everything right. I was waking up early to do what I called a power hour. I had a 1 hour morning routine and ritual before my day started. It just had a lot of the wrong things in it as far as what actually helps your nervous system. I was working out. I was eating clean. I was doing keto. I was fasting. I was, following anti-inflammatory diet. I had great connections with my husband and my children. So, I think what I experienced is something that a lot of women are really like right at the threshold of, as far as feeling like we're at our tipping point. We're carrying far too much and trying to take care of ourselves, doing all the right things, but it's not working. And then we're blaming ourselves. And so I essentially spent the last decade asking the questions, can we flip this model of self-care on its head? And can I make it work for me and every woman living life the way that I currently am? And the cool answer is yes, we can. And it's way easier and takes way less time than we could have ever imagined.
It's so true. I think a lot of times we sign up for a plan. And so much of my audience is that woman in perimenopause, menopause. So many of us are high achievers. And so when we go through these different transitions, I think of it as like half decade transitions. I know for me, I hit my 30s, I had both my kids, and I was like, why am I tired? Where did my brain go? This is not fair. Did I give my brain to you guys? Like, I don't understand. And that's what a functional medicine doctor sat me down. She goes, this is called subclinical thyroid condition. Can I give you some support? And then can we talk about lifestyle? Then I hit 40 and I was like, whoa, that's quite a wall, perimenopause. Then further, 45 now. And I can feel so much of what you teach online that I see because, like you just said, sometimes we just go harder. We're like, okay, things got harder. Well, I control everything. It must be my fault. So I will just work out harder. I'll dig deeper. I'll eat cleaner. I'll hold bigger fasts. I'll do whatever I have to knock myself out for sleep. And we just go on and on and on, kind of around the hamster wheel called the perimenopause journey or the aging journey or whatever the moment is. And in your case, you had such an acute issue. You were in the middle of raising 3 young children. And then all of a sudden, one tick bite mold exposure, boom, the body said, enough, we're done here. And so it sounds like you've been on this personal journey to figure out what is it that we're trying to achieve here and how can we achieve it differently, which I really appreciate because I teach ancient Ayurvedic medicine. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, we would never do what we do to ourselves as modern day women right now. We would never further torture the body the way we're doing it. And I'm susceptible to, I am a modern day woman. So sometimes I do try those things. And every time my body says, please stop. It's called walking in yoga. It's called decompression. There's a sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Like, come on, it's so basic. And so when you teach about these different brain states, I always find it so fascinating because it's almost like we don't understand that we pushed ourselves from 0 to 60 first thing in the morning. And thus it created a level of dysregulation throughout the day. So will you talk about that a little bit and what you discovered and put together?
Yeah, essentially, we are trying to self-care our way out of nervous system dysregulation. Yeah. And, I teach the nervous system like gears in a car, and we're basically living all day, every day in gear 3. It's like we're getting in the car, and instead of warming it up, we're pushing the gas to the floor. And when we're in gear 3, which is beta, we are in a state of survival. Now, our system of self-care is then asking us to just put more to-dos, more appointments, more things on that system and not actually addressing the nervous system states. And so everything that I teach is through the lens of brainwave shifted. And so if we can simply teach ourselves, which we can, it's very easy. It's like so simple that it could be easy to overlook. To simply downshift in any moment and go into alpha, which is our present time flow, or even deeper into gear 1, which is theta or intuition, where repair and rest happens. Then that is self-care. Self-care needs a rebrand, right? It's not something external outside of us. It's connection. That's an inside job, and we can access it in any moment, in any time, in microseconds.
I love that. Simple gear shifts. Okay, so will you go over those different brain states briefly? Because I think most people haven't even heard this terminology that you share.
Yeah. So I think about them like gears in a car, and we'll talk mainly about 4, theta, alpha, beta, like 4 main gears. Okay. So gear 1 is theta. I just touched on that briefly. Theta is like where our intuition lives. Theta is, if you ever hear someone say, I get my best ideas in the shower.
Yes, that's
Theta. Theta is like what we access when we daydream. It's like a complete shutdown of all those busy tabs in your mind. We access theta through daydreaming and through simply creating space for integration. So you think about in today's world, whenever we have a quiet moment, whether it's just 2 minutes, 5 minutes, it's like the question, a lot of us modern women tend to ask is like, what can I fit in here so that later I can relax? And that's exactly the opposite of what I ask my clients to do. Use those 2 minutes to downshift, because what we're teaching ourselves through this fluctuation of going from beta all day and getting these micro doses of regulation and connection is we're actually building our capacity we're enhancing our connection switch. You think about as women, we are constantly asked to gear shift in a way that, not to stereotype, but like most men maybe aren't as much, right? So, for instance, it's like if you've got kids, you're going through your day to day and you're in like beta task mode, get stuff done, Zoom meetings, emails, high level CEO kinds of things. We're all CEOs, by the way. We're running multiple things.
True.
And then instantly, maybe you get the call from school, or instantly, maybe your child walks up to you, or instantly your friend or your sister has a need and kind of like, for lack of a better word, interrupts that flow. And we need to have the ability to go from head to heart in a second. That is the connection switch. And that is one of the most important muscles for the modern women of today to flex. And so theta is gear one. And we naturally wake up in it, and we can talk more about these. I just kind of want to give you a little teaser, a little taste of each one. The next gear two is alpha. And this is really interesting, Shivani. I don't know if you know this, but I feel like this ties in with a lot of your work. And I love everything you teach, by the way. You guys have an excellent mentor and teacher here for you. Alpha is actually our default state. We are meant, you'll get this, we are meant as mammals to experience stress, go into a state of survival, right? To figure out, should I fight or should I flee? Or what am I to do to get out of this situation? And then we should naturally downshift from beta, the survival state, back into alpha. You're nodding your head. You know this, right? This is so basic. But we have trained our nervous system to stay in beta. Or not. I mean, I would love to ask all the listeners, and maybe people comment on here, maybe just it's a rhetorical question. Is the majority of your day spent in present time flow state and feeling connected to your heart and the moment? Or is the majority of most of our days, because of the environment that we live in, spent in gear 3 beta, where we're constantly just focused on the next task at hand? And so one of the most important things as we navigate, brainwaves and creating like normalcy in this interesting life that we live in, that's just constantly overstimulating. I mean, I don't know. If women today don't feel overstimulated, I almost am a little bit concerned, because we live in a very overstimulated environment.
We do.
And so I teach this stuff, and I literally am constantly, put in moments where cortisol is high, I'm in fight or flight. And it's, simply having the ability to create the awareness and have the tools and knowing how to drop down. But I'm not saying all this to say that this doesn't happen to me. Like, stress is part of our lives. This is about building capacity and strengthening your connection switch and being able to rapidly switch gears so that you can be in any state you want at any time, so that you can meet the task in front of you with the ideal who you be as you do.
True. No, it's so true. And you talk about how healing isn't about doing more, and how it's really about this downshifting the nervous system so we have clarity, so we have self-trust, and so that self-trust can really return naturally. But every woman listening might have been conditioned, like you're talking about, to believe that more effort equals more results. And every woman I talk to is like, I'm doing more, but I am not getting more results. And that kind of breaks all my belief systems around what to do here, because normally more efforting equals more results. And I know you're in the middle of sharing your book with the world. I just got through that journey. And really, when you share a book with the world, it's like round 1 is pre-launch, round 2 is post-launch. And my pre-launch was so intense. I just went at it. And I do wish I had a bigger team at the time. I had a great team. We needed like double the team size to do what we were trying to do. And it was like 9 months straight of waking up at 6 a.m. and my VA already had a list for me of, these are your podcasts today. These are the non-confirms. This is what we're moving around. I need these 10 speaker forms filled out by you. I'd work all day. And then she was up again at night. And so then I would just stay up with her 8 till 10, 8 till 11, working through her daytime. And this is as I was on podcasts talking about circadian rhythm, sleeping by 10, self-care rituals for the evening. And so it just felt like I was living in 2 worlds. I'm teaching an ideal while I am inflaming myself, working and burning the candle at both ends. And so I came out of the book launch and so much happened in January, and I've not shared it online, but January was what most people would call a shit show kind of month, just insanity, and everything went sideways in my entire life. And I thought, what's important? What matters? You're alive. Your children are alive. The people you love are alive. Can we just focus on what matters? And so I've taken the biggest sabbatical that I probably have ever taken. And I actually feel normal for the first time in so many years. I'm present to the people I love. I'm present to women in my community. I'm eating more joyfully and happily and present to my meals. I'm basically practicing everything in my book, but for myself. I'm
Great.
sleeping on time and I'm recharging. I think of you in my morning. I'm like, can we slowly wake up? Can we move in the sunlight first? Can we love self first before we basically open email and social and respond to the whole world who's trying to come at us? And even now, I will look down at my phone. You know how like you have a break? I might have a 3-minute break between you and my next podcast. We always pick up our phone. And now my new habit is I picked up my phone. I'm not opening any apps. As long as everyone I love is fine, which they should be. They're in school and at work. No one needs me right now. And I started reading fiction books over the last 3 weeks. And I'm happier and more relaxed than I've ever been in my whole life. And so I've been thinking about you so much, Melissa, because your work really, really works around this idea of you just need connection to you. You don't need a new stack of supplements and a new stack of biohacking tools. Like you can have those things, they're enhancements, but it's so much about you actually relaxing and connecting to self. And so will you share about how we can talk to that high achieving woman out there in our audience to stop trying harder? Because even as I do this, I can even feel the tug, work, opportunities. I am in post launch. There's still work to do. I'm flying on Thursday to be on podcast. So the work pulls you, but how do you keep that dance of both sides of that coin? What matters?
This is such a good question. And I love this analogy of, the way that we are approaching self-care with doing more and doubling down is essentially like taking a baby who's crying because they're overtired and giving them more toys. Here's one with bells. Here's one with noise. Here's one with whistles, right? And it's not necessarily that the tool that we're throwing at ourselves is bad, but it's that we're not actually meeting it where its needs are, right? So for that baby, it needs rest, not overstimulation.
What matters?
And for us, it's the same thing.
What matters?
And so I love the example that you just gave because essentially you are doing less.
What matters?
Untethering from all the external influences, whether it's chasing productivity for our sense of worth.
What matters?
Whether it's that habit of filling every space with checking our phones.
What matters?
It's all of it. And these are really real conversations because this is the self-care for today's women. It's that habit switch.
What matters?
It's flexing that muscle of discomfort and unfamiliar.
What matters?
Right? It's creating that awareness around, wow, look at me grabbing my phone again. Do I even need to be on here? What am I here to check? Are my kids good? Okay, I'm going to now flex this muscle that's a little uncomfortable and I'm going to put my phone down instead of getting on Instagram. What matters? A very real tug. And I meet you where you are. You just went through book launch. I'm experiencing it right now. And it is a wild ride.
What matters?
And I'm so thankful for the women who are steps ahead of me because, for me, the way it's showing up is I feel like it's putting a microscope on how I live if I'm not careful. And what's really interesting in the way it's showing up for me is, I have a book on nervous system regulation and
what matters?
There are moments, Shivani, where I feel like there are cameras on me being like, how much can this woman take before she cracks? Do the tools really work? And so for me, I think because I have had that experience of what happens when I let my boundaries go, this is really a conversation around boundaries. What matters? When I hear your 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., that to me is a hard and fast non-negotiable. There are other things that I let slide. We all have ours, right?
What matters?
But just like my kids know, or my children when they were toddlers knew, you do not run into the road.
What matters?
Like there are rules that maybe when I'm tired slide, like, okay, I don't want you to have this food, but whatever, I give up, like you can have it. Like there are hard and fast no's. in our children's life, and there are hard and fast no's in our own.
What matters?
And so for me, this book launch has been like, I feel like God universe is like,
what matters?
How serious are you about these things?
What matters?
And so the 8 to 11 p.m. is a no, but I will tell you my morning time, it is a very slippery slope because that is when I'm like,
what
I'm a morning
matters?
person.
What matters?
And so I could very easily wake up and hop on and get some stuff to my team. Like I am peak time in the morning. And so, whether the women listening are in a book launch or not,
what matters?
Again, I just said it. This is a conversation. Self-care is a conversation around boundary work. And I like to talk about getting self-with, right? We're constantly worried about being selfish, or we're told to be selfless. Like, WTF is that?
What matters?
Like, lose yourself is a good woman. Are you kidding me?
What matters? True.
So I like to talk about being self-with.
What matters?
This is connection with yourself.
What matters?
And so boundaries, or what I call self-agreements, are those things where, when the going gets tough, this is where we've got to double down. This is nervous system regulation in real time. Okay, it's 8 p.m. I've had a hard time sleeping. I'm starting to wind down, in my evening routine so I can hit delta. That's another brainwave gear, which is actually deep sleep, which is the only place, as you know, where we truly repair, where our brain lymph system works so that we feel fresh and clear the next day. But you know what? I've got that email that's probably in my inbox and I should probably just get back to that person. No, that is a self-agreement.
What matters?
And it comes down to self-integrity and making your inside desires match your outside behaviors and actions. And this is alignment.
What matters?
This is where we do it, you guys. And so this isn't, it's not an either or. It's a both and. And so what I want to say is this isn't about adding another protocol or a certain way of eating. Like all those things, yes, you're doing them all. They're great.
What matters?
This is actually the upstream that makes all of that work better.
What matters?
Because when our nervous system can get out of a state of survival,
what matters
happens in these moments, these mini agreements, or these little ways that stack that we betray ourselves over and over again throughout the day.
What matters
is where we regulate our nervous system, not on the massage table, not when your cute little toesies are in the pedicure bowl. Like those are all great. But how many times do we get there and we're like answering emails while we're doing the pedicure? It's these moments. And I would love to say, I'm kind of on a rampage because this is like so huge and so important. And I love working with women on this. I brought up alignment briefly. And alignment was my word of the year last year. I don't know if you do that. Do you ever have a word of the year?
I do. And I've had alignment as my word too. Yeah, it's a beautiful one.
So it was very humbling to me because I thought, all right, alignment, it's a beautiful word and it's easy and I'm in alignment. And, I had kind of like a physical version of that with doing more yoga and handstands. And then I was like, I'm going to live in alignment and be super true to who I am. What I realized that alignment for me is not ease.
What matters?
Alignment is congruency.
Nice.
And so I realized how many times I was saying yes to other people, or I was catching myself about to say yes to other people and no to me.
What matters?
How many times I was not letting my inside desires match up my outside actions because I didn't want to let someone else down. And so my year of alignment did not feel easy.
What matters?
It was making the commitment to stand up for myself, to get up from tables that no longer felt good to sit at.
What matters?
Alignment. That is not easy.
What matters?
It was the commitment to, I think a lot of us are really hard workers and a lot of us have pushed and grinded for day in and day out and year after year. And so for people like us, saying no to a workout and actually resting and nourishing when your body's begging for it is a flex. And so last year for me, it meant that. It meant listening to that and not worrying about, am I, slacking, like all those things.
What matters?
And so just to double back, like really the nervous system work is around boundaries, self-agreements, getting in alignment. And this is not always easy, but it's so worth it on the other side because you start living a life true to yourself.
What matters?
This is where, village and like-minded friendships whether they're online in communities or, podcasts that are helping support you in this, are so important because
What
it can
matters?
feel scary and you can feel alone as you're making these decisions. Stepping into your true self doesn't look so pretty when it's happening, but it's so worth it on the other side. And so having those women with you that are like, it's okay. I know that was hard. I know you're scared because you just stood up for yourself and your heart's beating really fast. But like, I promise you now that relationship will shift. Like, keep going. It's so important.
What matters? It's so true. I'm so glad you shared all of that because I think a lot of times in the health and wellness space, we're talking about nervous system regulation. We're like, it's the vagus nerve. We need to have vagus nerve toning. I think nervous system is having its like trend year this last year and this year. So as we talk about it, we're like, okay, so all you stressed out women, like the way through is 3 deep breaths before you eat food. And you need to do X, Y, or Z, chanting, humming, gargling. I always laugh when we say those. So I'm like, really? You're going to add another thing to my list? Do you understand? My list doesn't stop. And if I stop, my list tries to run me over. And so I love that you shared about boundaries because I think many of us have a problem with setting boundaries. I'm one of those people. My sister, who's my best friend, is always like, your problem is you won't say no. And I'm like, you have kids one day and you tell me what no's you can say in the world. I'm beholden to a lot of people. And then I keep saying yes to everyone. So now I'm just beholden to the half the planet. And she's always like, yeah, but if you said no, you don't have to go see your in-laws if you don't want to. You don't have to go to any party if you don't want to. You don't have to travel if you don't want to. Every single option on the table is actually an option. You just consider them not optional. And so now that I am post book launch, it's interesting to watch this new unfoldment because my attitude is no. Like my podcast team reached out, they're like, there's a podcast in LA. I was like, no, I am too tired. I don't care. That's flying west. Do you know what flying west does to me? I am not flying west. I'm not going to put myself into jet lag and tired. It has to be, I don't know, God for it to be worth it to me at this point, or I'm not going. It has to be like a full on, I should get to eat with my favorite people and be on 3 podcasts. Like it has to be worth it. And if it's not worth it, it's a no. And maybe I have that luxury now because I'm post, pre, I just said yes to everything. And so I love that you talked about boundaries because it is such the upstream issue. And if we can address the upstream, then we don't get to the downstream. And so when you look back into your own journey of what happened, and then you truly ended in like this train wreck moment to have meningitis, encephalitis. I mean, I've heard you share your story in person. You couldn't remember how to get to your own office, and it was just a mile or two away. I mean, I think sometimes we keep going and going on the hamster wheel, and the hamster wheel could be our own creation, right? Sometimes achievement, hard work, we're used to all those things serving us because we're getting what we want from it. But I think what's insidious is that last piece you spoke about, the people pleasing aspect of us that we're also kind of ingrained with. Sometimes we don't consider it optional. We're like, oh, I have to be a great mother, daughter, sister, wife, entrepreneur, like name a role, leader to my team. So how do you help women really draw a line and understand that at some point you have to draw a line in the sand and start to practice the no to make just enough space for you? And then like you talked about, once you start opening those spaces, they can become wider and wider. I call that time bending. Because if I pause, let's say between interviews, I have 30 minutes. I had that today, a 30-minute gap. I asked myself, what would you like to do for your 30-minute gap? And my mind said, you should prepare for the next podcast. You should read her whole book. You've got things to do and you should respond to email. I told that voice, no, they can be not doing that. I can interview someone. I don't have to do anything. I honestly love this conversation thing I get to do on podcast. So then I said, what else would you like to do? Well, I'd love to eat something yummy and drink some tea and chill in bed. And that's what I did. And I think it could be that simple, like you say. It's actually just about the relaxation and the dropping into self. They can be opposed to that other voice that we constantly choose that doesn't serve us.
They can be. This is so important. I wrote a whole chapter about this in the book. And I will say, what you ended up doing made you more prepared for this podcast than what the other would have done. Yes?
Totally.
They can be you in your heart. They can be, right? And so we create a really interesting dialogue. So we have two voices that play in our head as our inner narrator. One is our ego and one is our amygdala.
They
And the
can be
biggest thing, one of the most important things we can do as today's women is identify and create an awareness around which one is speaking.
they can be
Because what happens is our ego serves to keep our identity safe. If I do this, I'm not going to show up great for this podcast. Or if I say this thing, my friendship with this person is going to end.
they can
It's
be
keeping our identity safe. Our
they can be
amygdala keeps us physically safe. Don't cross that street. There's lots of cars, right? Things like that.
they can be
They both present, as far as the nervous system, as either one is like a threat to our survival. And so when we can create awareness around these two voices, like, let me just backstep for a minute. As women, we are communal beings.
they can be
And so if we're talking about the ego chiming in, don't say what you want to say in this table, like these friends will no longer be your friends. Losing friends and our community can feel like a threat to our survival because at one point it was. Right.
They
And
can
so
be
we are hardwired to stay part of the tribe and community because back in the day, if we became isolated, we could literally die. And so our nervous system is our hardwiring and it still functions that way, even though that is not the case. Our physical health is not harmed by getting up from that table or by saying what we wanted to say when someone's talking shit to us.
Yeah.
And so exactly what you did, how you just walked through, you had that 30 minutes and there was the ego saying, I should do all these things. I should do this and blah, 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 so that I'm prepared. You
They can be
created an awareness around it.
they can be
You untethered from that voice, which, by the way, is not our own.
they
It's
can be
handed down through our hardwiring, through our, generational cycles, through trauma, through our mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers. You don't have to let it dictate our life anymore. And so I wrote this whole chapter called Befriending the Ego. And, a lot of spiritual teachings are about getting beyond or powering over the ego. And I think that's just such a, power over is such a masculine term.
true.
And as women, we really empower from within. And so we create this like hold hand kind of conversation.
They can
You
be
know what?
they
I
can
don't
be
need to go read this woman's book to prep for this podcast. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that.
they
I'm
can be
going to actually choose to do what feels best for me.
they can
I'll
be
catch you over there. You've run my life for far too long.
they can be
You're welcome to come with me. We can do this together. But I'm going to start running the show now. We're safe. You can quiet down. Let's go do this together.
they can be
And so, we talk to ourselves anyway. So maybe it sounds crazy, but we're already doing it.
they can
And
be
this is nervous system regulation, again, in real time. So this isn't about, okay, I've got this podcast and I want to be regulated. So I should go do my lymph thingy and gurgle and da-da-da.
they can be
Had that conversation. You could have that in the car while you're running carpool. You could have that while you're commuting to your podcast studio. That is self-care.
they can be It's so true. And I love that you talked about befriending the ego. You're right. It is such a spiritual concept that we talk about, that we have this ego, we have this intellect, we have this connection to our spirituality. And you're also right. We are talking to ourselves anyways. And there's so much power in that. I'll be driving to get to the kids. This was happening just yesterday. I was racing from Palm Beach Gardens to Boca to get to the kids and freaking out because I'm 20 minutes late. My kids don't want to be picked up late. They've got this time thing there. They're both Libras. So they're just life has to be fair or else. So I'm always trying to align to it. And as I'm racing down 95, trying to get everyone out of my way, I ask myself, what does it matter? You are going to reach there in the same amount of time. It's 20 minutes or it's 22. But racing at full throttle and being stressed the entire time, what is that going to gift you at the end? Your nerves are going to be shot.
You downshifted in real time. You went from beta into alpha through an inner conversation.
Exactly. I was like, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be tired. You're going to be burnt out. And you don't even want to give up those reserves. So why are we doing this right now? Calm down and do the drive. It's the same drive regardless. I can't move the entire freeway, nor can I go over 100 miles an hour. Apparently, we're not allowed to do that in Florida. So it's what it is then. And so I love that you teach befriending the ego, because maybe that's really underneath it all. The root cause is we are sitting there letting it run the show, letting it say, no, but there's more. You have more opportunities. That's what happens to me. Around 8 o'clock is my last check-in. And I'll get an email that's like, this thing can happen for you. If you go to Dallas this week, you should say yes. And it's always been so tempting. And then now the new homework is no, actually, it's going to be okay. They can get a response tomorrow and
Mm.
it's going to be fine. And so, will you speak a little more into this idea of our ego and our intellect? Because in Ayurveda, we do talk about how sometimes we have this mistake of the intellect, and it happens when we stop listening to our body's wisdom and we override it with this mental will that we have to override. I know I do that all the time. I think my book launch was the most excellent example of overriding the body's wisdom. Because my body was like, can we please just go to yoga more? Can we travel less? Can we sleep more? Can we eat more? And can we chill? And I was like, no, you don't get to have that. But if you give me 9 months, I promise you chill mode is coming. And so, how often do we just keep pushing that timeline and not giving the break? And it sounds like your whole framework is addressing that same disconnect, but you're really bringing in this powerful neuroscience angle. And so, how does that chronic stress, like never stepping off that hamster wheel, sever a woman's body from understanding her own body signals?
So good. We can't hear our own voice and intuition and what's right for us when we're living in survival.
Yeah.
And so a pattern that I think that a lot of women live in, that I see a lot in the women I work with, is what you just said. It's that push through, right? Whether it's 9 months, I'm going to push through for 9 months and then I'll have a break. Or, more in the daily example, I'm going to push through. I've got this 2-minute, 5-minute break. I'm going to double down on doing so that I can get to the end of the day and then relax. Or I'm going to push through the week so I have the weekend to relax. Well, what happens when we actually get to that moment? You've actually taken like a beautiful sabbatical. You've got some incredible knowledge, wisdom, and tools that you've leaned heavily on. And so that has worked for you. And I don't know that it works for every woman, because when we're living that way, when we're pushing, so then we get the break, we are training our nervous system to have its default mode rather than be alpha to be beta.
Yeah.
And so, the nervous system learns through frequency and consistency. And that's a beautiful thing, because that means we can regulate our nervous system in the micro moments. But it also means that whatever we're doing repetitively throughout the day so that we can push through and then relax teaches our body to not know how to when we actually have that window.
Sure.
And so this looks like the woman who gets to the end of the day and finally has no work so she can be present with her kids, laying down at bedtime and not even hearing what her kids are saying because you're playing those emails. There's not something wrong with you. That is not a personality flaw. That is a physiological state. And so we've literally done reps, bicep reps all day to train into beta, and then wondering what's wrong with us when we're stuck in it. So then we're gurgling, we're doing the Vegas stuff. We're like, okay, let me run in the bathroom and do these things. It's, what I teach in the connection code is the framework and the understanding and the tools in your toolbox, things that we've just touched on that you use that actually allow you to catch yourself in that instance, laying next to your child, create an awareness and downshift and instantly access that. And so, ultimately, like when women come to me, or, I'm sure to you too, it's, women will say, I want to be healthier. I want to be fit. I want to have less inflammation, less pain. Like when you boil it all down, I think what a lot of women actually want is to enjoy this life and experience it as we're living it, and to not have regrets.
Yeah.
Whether it's the season of your children's ages that you push through so that you could get to the other side, right? Or having a life half lived, going through the motions and wondering, is this all there is? Until fill in the blank, and then getting there and realizing it all feels the same. And so this is what actually shifts that.
I love that. I think you're right. I mean, such a powerful thing you just said, a half-lived life, for a life where you're not present because you kept pushing. I just went to functional medicine because I was like, okay, done with book launch. I asked you guys to give me like a break, and I told you I'd come back and be ready to do the work. And my functional medicine doctor, I have two of them. One of them is Chinese medicine. And she said, Shivani, I watched your book launch. That was the most intense thing I've ever seen. I was curious what you would look like after. And I said, well, what's good is, even though I say I'm not doing it, I have certain laws with myself. And you brought this up, self-agreements. So my laws with myself are my intermittent fasting, My tea time is me time. This is, when we talk about gargling, because you need to have a warm beverage going down your throat, or gargling involving the throat, or chanting. They say just drinking a hot beverage is also vagus nerve toning. And I said, I'm a tea girl. I know many people are coffee girls. I'm a tea girl. So I have my tea 5 times a day religiously. And in my case, I'm all about adaptogens and super spices. So I will have, starting at 4 o'clock, I have like my adaptogenic herbs to start calming down my nervous system for the evening. And so she came back. She was like, you are a lucky girl. You have such a strong constitution and your immune cells look great. Like, good job, actually. I'm impressed. Even though it looked like a lot of work, you did honor yourself in there. You still eat properly. Like for me, I eat like my clean meals throughout the day. Like, I'm very regimented in certain arenas. But you brought up something so deep. Like, even though you're running through life and you're holding foundation and you're doing the things you commit to, and maybe you have healthy boundaries, which would be like A++, gold star. If we're not present to it, we're not even absorbing the beauty of life. We're not absorbing how beautiful maybe our motherhood journey is, or our entrepreneurial journey, or whatever aspects of our life that are so meaningful to us, then what's the point? We're just racing through. It's kind of like that story where you went through a beautiful home holding something on a spoon. All you could focus on was not dropping what was on the spoon. And you just didn't even look around at what was happening. And so when you talk about this, when you talk about how to understand thyself and make that space and these brainwave states, how do you show women to move through them? We've talked about it a little bit, but I find the way you illustrate brainwave states really helps me understand how to create shifts. So sometimes it could be self-conversation. I know in your case, you do a lot of reading of books. And right now I am reading 2 book series at this point. All I do is read fiction all day. It's the best moment ever. You also talk about your sit spot in the morning, making space for your PEMF grounding mat and red light. Everyone who's listening, you have to follow Melissa online. Like, watching her do the things inspires me every day to bring those practices into my life and to create that space. So how have you kind of done that for yourself successfully? Because I know you have 3 kids. I see you moving in nature every day, walking in nature. I mean, how can women in a practical way bring some of these things into their daily life?
Yes, great question. So there's the macro and there's the micro. And so again, your nervous system learns through frequency and consistency. So I definitely recommend women anchoring themselves in a practice of macro nervous system regulation. So yes, getting your body to recognize this is what alpha feels like. Yes, our nervous system craves the familiar. Right. Yes. And so, spending some time in theta and alpha, what does that mean? When we wake up, we're naturally in these states. Yes. And so every time we can hover in them, we're basically locking it into our nervous system. This is an important channel. Recognize what it feels like so that you can find it later in the midst of your chaotic day and access it. Yes. Okay. So that looks like in the morning, like you just said, yes, monitoring your light. So anytime we are under white, blue lights, looking at our screens, we are pulled right into gear 3 beta. Yes. And so we wake up in these magical, dreamlike states, theta and alpha, and we pull ourselves out without even realizing it. Yes. So I am keen on a morning ritual. It doesn't have to be an hour, but like the first 20 minutes, if you can, just really monitor your light. Yes. I did this gradually over the years. You can literally on Amazon get like a red light bulb and put them in a couple of your lamps in your home and only have those on. Yes. Got a beautiful, what I call sit spot that Shivani brought up. We can link below some of the things that I put in there. Yes. I have a grounding mat that I love. It's what I go and sit on every morning. I've got like some really good books there, long books that I love to read. And also just like the pivot year where I can turn to a page, read one quote if that's all I got. Yes. And then I've got some therapeutic red light in there. Definitely hitting sunrise if you can. Sunrise gets you into alpha. So you're hitting, from gear 1, you're naturally going into gear 2 alpha, getting in your heart, getting in your body, like go for a little brisk walk. Again, if it's 2 to 5 minutes, I call it my morning sunshine walk. It's not long. I literally go around the corner of my house and come back. That's alpha. And then you start your day. Right? Yes. So you're teaching your body. These are gears. We need to spend time in each one. Then we have the micro. So the micro is, the tools in your toolbox for, okay, something just happened. I'm way more triggered or way more elevated that I want to be in this moment? How can I drop down? So I'll give a really tangible example because this happened last night. Yes, my husband is traveling. Yes, yet again, he's like traveled more than ever in the midst of my book launch, like literally been home maybe 3 days in a month. Crazy, crazy time. We've got 3 kids. We live in Miami, massive traffic. They're all busy. I am driving around, running around, homework, Yes. Painting the scene of like every mom's kitchen at 5 p.m. And my head is, managing everything. So it's fast paced. And my daughter, she's like the cutest little voice. She's like, Mom, I just dumped out all my change and I want to make a snow angel in the coins. And yes. Like when you're living here, you could easily be like, what did you just do? It was such a cute moment. Yes. And kind of like your car moment, you're like, I could either rush through and miss this moment, or I could take 30 seconds and be fully present and enjoy this beautiful moment of my 9-year-old's sweet imagination and connect with her. Yes. And so in that moment, I needed a micro. And so I'm going to share with you guys one of my favorite ways to micro downshift, meaning in any moment you can access this. Yes. All you have to do is go from near vision to far vision. Our eyes are the remote control into our brains. And so literally we can use what we look at to influence our nervous system state and activate that connection switch and go from fight or flight into parasympathetics. Yes. Go from beta into alpha. Yes. Go from dysregulation into regulation. So I use this to go into the moment with my daughter, Kaya. So all you need to do, I call it expanded gaze, is look at something 10 feet away from you and like scan the breadth of that area. So this isn't about like looking at dust bunnies or, pictures on the wall. It's like majorly scanning an expansive view. Yes. When I'm on my sunshine walks, I do this in a big way by looking at the horizon around our corner. Like that's an amazing way to macro build your theta alpha muscle. But in the moment, all I did was I stopped looking at everything right in front of me. Here's the dinner. Where's the homework? Blah, 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 blah. And I scanned the room. Yes. And then I sat by her. Yes. Right? And so whether I wanted her to spill out her entire, like one of those huge bottles of change or not, yes, I was in a better state to have a connected conversation with her. Yes. Right. And so expanded gaze is one of the most important tools that I teach. Yes. You can activate it, if you're going from Zoom to Zoom or email to email, shutting your computer, shutting your screens, ideally going outside, ideally looking at a horizon. Yes. Literally just doing what we naturally would do before we lived on our screens. True. Yes. And you think about, we normally fill these little breaks here and there. We move from Zoom and emails to our phone for a quote unquote brain break. Yes. Which it kind of feels like it is because you're, scrolling and nobody like really needs you. And you're just kind of, I call it brain rot, just kind of like brain rotting for a moment. Yes. But it never really feels better because you're staying in beta. Yes. So we call it a brain break, but it's actually quite the opposite. A true brain break would be going down into alpha. So get outside, close your screens, look 10 feet away from you or more. 2 minutes is the magic number. 5 is better. If you can move your body, great. But it's that simple. Yes.
One thing I do, I just walk around my pool. Sometimes we think we have to go out in nature and we have to go outside, but sometimes I'm just not dressed for it. I'm just like, I want to go as is. I want to throw my flip-flops on and just move. And so when you take away all those barriers, it's easier. And if I can't get outside, let's say it's pouring rain, I'll just walk around my dining table and I'll still keep looking outside through the window. So I think it's just about doing what you can with what you have. But I love that you talk about expanded gaze and how you get outside and send us all the videos and photos and talk about our circadian light and getting enough light into our bodies. Each of these things adds up to us being more connected to self. And so I'm so excited to read your book, The Connection Code. I am so excited that it's out in the world finally. You've been teaching this wisdom for all of us on social media for months and months, probably years. I just found you about a year ago. And so as people look at picking up your book, will you share the why of why they need this book right now? Will you share where they can find you? And I'm so excited for your book coming out in the world.
Yeah, self-care needs a rebrand. We have been taught a system that is about everything external and everything outside of us and then beating ourselves up when it's not working. This isn't a personality flaw. This is a feature. It's our nervous system saying we need a better way. It's connection. It's an inside job, and you already have access to it. You've just not been taught how to use it. So the connection code is, I made the front reflect. Like, I really want people to judge the book by its cover. I wanted it to look sparkly and fun and getting us back to that version of ourselves. So the connect, so sick of picking up books with more protocols and more things I need to add on and feeling overwhelmed and like a failure. So the connect, now I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn. I'm more overwhelmed than ever. We are living in the age of information and knowledge. So the connect are less connected to ourselves than ever before. So it's not working. So the connect, and so this is about returning home. This is about letting go. This is about ease. And this is getting back to who we came here to be. So I'm really excited. I would love to hear from all of you guys. I love playing on Instagram. I think it can be a really fun place for connection. So the connect, follow me there. You can message me. I respond to every message. Sometimes I take 24 hours, because those boundaries. But I am there, and I've got a lot of great resources on my website, drmelissasonners.com. So the Connect cast as well, and a YouTube channel, which I'm sure we can link. And last thing, I created a mini masterclass for the women who want to know how to downshift in real time. So the Connect apps link that as well. It's called the Urgency Reset. So it teaches us how to get out of that, feeling of living in urgency, rushing around when it takes just as much time to enjoy the process. So we can link that below. It's like a 15-minute mini masterclass on all these nervous system tools.
Nice. Thank you, Melissa, for always bringing all this wisdom in such an approachable and fun way. I think so many in the health space teach it in such a serious way, scientific and medicinal. And you're the perfect fusion of the two. You're bringing it together as this is neuroscience. These are your brain waves. Well, let's talk about how to apply it into your daily life, how to make it practical, how to make it intuitive so you understand where you're at and where you want to be and how you're going to get there. So for everyone listening, check out her incredible book, The Connection Code, online. Check out her website, drmelissasonners.com. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. Melissa, I'm sure I'll see you soon because we're both local here in South Florida, which is so nice. And for everyone listening, if you want more information on the Inflammation Code podcast, just check out my website, shivanigupta.com. Thank you guys for joining. And thank you, Melissa, for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Shivani.
Thank you.